instead. Oops. That going. Or else we're gonna get noise. Good. And scene. Nope. There we go. All right. New week, new podcast. Back to work already, though some started on Saturday. Oh, snap. Canadian Thanksgiving? Happy Thanksgiving. Kyiv been bombed because of the Kerch Strait Bridge destroyed. Elon Musk getting involved in this Ukrainian war conversation. What does he think now? And what is the real threat of this nuclear war? I think it can actually happen. Not gonna lie. With the back to work, it does seem like although the city wind, the weather wind, is pretty big, has the wind in people's sails diminished a little bit. And yes, now on Substack, new platform. How many times or how many platforms do we really need? Monday, October 10th, 2022. I'm Steven Sersky. Thanks for joining along here. And it is Canadian Thanksgiving already. It is earlier. The U.S.-American Thanksgiving takes place every November 25th, and that's a big one because it's a Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. It sort of marks the Christmas season kickoff as well in the United States. In Canada, we celebrate a little bit earlier, usually because by November 25th, Canada's under snow, typically. Our farms are, everything's been harvested basically at that point, the much shorter harvest season. Not doing anything special here in China for this. Actually, this weekend, it was actually back to work for a lot of people. I guess on Saturday was the official back to work. So the way that it works here, and I think I've explained this before, with these extended breaks that China gives for its National Day and Spring Festivals, that you don't get a free day off. There's no actual day off. The work days are moved. They're shuttled around before and after the holiday, so you can have that 1 week off, but you still have to make up those days. So people who got Thursday, Friday off last week then had to work Saturday, Sunday, in addition to the Monday to Friday normal work week. So, which would you rather have? Would you rather have a shorter National Day break, like 3 or 4 days total, and not have to make up the work? Or would you rather make up that work, have that longer break, and just make up the work days later on? This is the only country I've ever seen that does this. I've never heard of it happening anywhere else. And I don't think it will happen anywhere else, to tell you the truth. But that's what it is already. And yet the weather actually on Saturday, the weather was a little bit, it was very dreary. Not just smoggy, it was drizzly as well, very rainy. By Sunday it cleared up and it was nice, but there was a huge wind. So and it got cold. Like you can tell in the morning it was a lot cooler than it has been before. Like definitely summer is over. And with that, like I mentioned that the wind has picked up, but has the wind in people's sails dropped? And Saturday's picture didn't really lend itself to a very joyful return to work after, especially since it was the beginning of a 7-day work week for a lot of people, a lot of Chinese people. So I guess we can actually chalk this up to the fact that, it is, the start of a very long work week, that they have to make up the days that they didn't work because of the National Day. And even though they couldn't, and not only that, they couldn't go anywhere. A lot of companies urged their employees to stay in Beijing and to not go anywhere. So as a result, they basically just stayed at home and did nothing. What a holiday, right? Because I guess if they did, there was a chance that they wouldn't be able to get back to Beijing, or that they wouldn't be able to that if they did go overseas, they'd get flagged, and when they came back to Beijing, they would have to quarantine again. So this was a big issue. Now, there has been other big news over the weekend. I'm not sure if you guys are still following along this Ukrainian war, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, a special military operation invasion. Two things happened. Friday, was it Friday or Saturday? It was Vladimir Putin's birthday, his 70th. The guy's 70 years old. And the Kerch Strait Bridge was bombed. It's blown up. I mean, not demolished, but something hit it. Was it a cigarette? Was it a ship? Was it a truck? No one knows. Amazingly, no one knows. With all the technology we have, no one knows exactly who destroyed the bridge. But there is a train that is stuck on the bridge, and that thing was still burning. One section of the vehicle passageway has been destroyed. It's underwater, and I don't know. Would you want to drive across a bridge that has just been bombed, and it's kind of looking a little bit wavy? I don't know. You must be pretty desperate to get across that bridge in order to get going. I mean, I guess you just gunned it, right? You gun it, hope for the best, pray to your God, and hopefully he'll get you across that bridge without you falling into the sea or into the water. Haven't heard of anything else collapsing from the bridge. Now, this bridge is sort of a big deal because it actually played two roles. Number one was that it was like a connection. It's the land connection between Russia and Ukraine in that part of that region that goes directly from Russian territory into Crimea. And it was always sort of seen as one of these things, like it was like an aggressive Russian act. Like the Ukrainians didn't want it for obvious reasons. They didn't want a highway built across a body of water that pretty much led into the Russian military outpost in Sevastopol. Yes, the naval base in Crimea, and so this was always sort of under contention, at least as far as people are saying. Now that it's been bombed, you can say it's symbolic, whatever. The fact that it's been hit by something, no one. I mean, they're saying Russia, of course, is saying that it's Ukrainian terrorists, and Ukraine is either taking credit for it or saying it was a Russian false flag event, and false flag being something that a military does to draw attention to an issue, even though they did it themselves, sort of thing. So, and Russia's apparently pretty notorious for doing these types of things in the battlefield. Whatever the case may be, I mean, this happened basically right after Elon Musk last week was tweeting about how Ukraine and Russia should just sit down and negotiate, even though now Turkey, Russia, Germany, the U.S., I think there's one other, France, they're all saying, oh yeah, we should all sit down and talk. And it's like, what about Ukraine? Why isn't Ukraine included in that conversation? I mean, Russia is poking itself into Ukraine. Ukraine should be at that table. Why? What are they going to talk about that's going to convince Russia to do anything different? Or not Russia, Putin to do anything different, right? Then, next major development, Kyiv was just bombed. Downtown Kyiv, there's a bomb dropped. You can see the clips, no doubt, for whoever is saying that this war doesn't actually exist. I guess I'm guessing you're not on social media or whatever. If you're still saying that this is a U.S. proxy war, I think you've missed it. You don't understand what's going on at all, to tell you the truth. And regardless of whether or not you try to associate or make analogies between this war and other wars, particularly in the Middle East, I think you've sort of completely missed the boat in terms of what's actually going on between Russia and Ukraine in particular, and that Ukraine's choice to ally itself more with the West rather than with Russia has very deep historical roots. And if you're saying that this is a U.S. proxy war, don't bother messaging me. I mean, you're I don't know where you're getting your information. You're probably not. You're just kind of making it up, sort of thing. But at least that's what it seems like. Because with now the bombs dropping in downtown Kyiv itself, it's kind of like if Russia is willing to do that. Like, and I mean, Kyiv is a very historical city. I mean, there's a lot of historical buildings and places around the whole city. They start hitting those things. That's what their goal is here. This is what Putin has been talking about. This is what Putin is basically going for, is to eliminate the Ukrainian culture and the people's connection to that culture. Russia and the Soviet Union tried to do this 100 years ago by extinguishing the Ukrainian language, and now with this invasion of Ukraine, that's basically what he's trying to do, is to pick away at Ukrainian identity, Ukrainian cultural identity. He hasn't succeeded with the language, but he is trying to poke holes and not let Ukraine rest in terms of its military action. And I've said this before, I don't think Ukraine can rest. I don't think it should rest. If Ukraine wants to be an independent nation, a sovereign nation that chooses to ally itself with NATO, the US, then it has to build up its own forces. It cannot depend on them. And that's what immediately after Kyiv was bombed, it was more calls for more weapons to Ukraine. For, they got to be supplied with everything. It was like, well, if they're being supplied with everything, then they're basically part of NATO, which, I mean, is going to further part of NATO or not NATO. I mean, Putin was going to do this anyway. That's not the argument. Putin's whole goal here is to basically make Ukraine and its people subservient, or at least the geographical location of Ukraine subservient to Moscow. Ukraine hasn't let that happen. Its military, which has been heavily subsidized by Western military equipment, if they don't start building this stuff on their own, there's no way that they'll be able to sustain it. The debt load that they're accumulating to the United States, to NATO, if the bombs don't break the country, it's going to be their financial system. Now, if they manage to bulk up that border and are able to resume their grain and other commodity exports. Ukraine makes up like 47% of the soybean oil market in the world. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. If they could get that back to in order, they could pay off these debts. Problem is, they're not having very much success. I mean, this harvest was interrupted with I'm not sure if they do winter wheat in Ukraine either. But next year, I mean, is Russia going to show up in the spring and start blowing holes in harvest in farmers' fields again, or are those farmers' fields now mined? That's the other big thing about Ukrainian land. Has it been mined, and is it safe to go across? All right. Anyway, so Elon Musk is going on about this as well. He released something, Optimus. I didn't really understand why they did this, the whole Optimus thing. I guess it's some sort of autonomous robot, but I don't know what it's supposed to do. I guess it's one of these things, another little project of his, I have no idea what it's actually meant to do. That being the case, the Tesla stock is massively down, and PayPal has been getting hit recently. Trending on Twitter the other day that it was just the company people couldn't close their account, transfer money and stuff like that. I only started reusing PayPal here, United States, $90